Richard Maloney, to talk about it. Our next session, Ignite the Change, Secrets to Creating an Engaged Workforce. Richard Maloney is the founder and director of Engage and Grow Global and is proudly leading the way as one of the most renowned employee engagement and leadership experts as Engage and Grow expands around the world at a phenomenal pace with over 220 coaches represented in over 80 countries. With Richard's non-traditional and unique group activation systems, he initially helped 40 sporting teams enter grand finals and 32 to win premierships. For many years of studying the motivation of the brain and through trial and error over the course of 9 years, he has applied the development systems he had implemented in sports to business. Come and discover the secrets of highly motivated workforce with the master himself, Richard. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the sentiment and very much looking forward to assisting our friends on the call today. And thank you for making the time to help us change the world and turn it into a happier, more productive and energized place for our children. So I'd just quickly like to get to know my audience. Could you quickly write in here what your job title is, whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a HR manager, a learning development manager, it could be whatever it may be, an employee. I don't mind. I'd just like to get to know who I'm speaking with, businesses, founders, fantastic. Please shoot them through so I can get a feel for this. Business owners, entrepreneurs, fantastic, CEOs. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, business operations. Okay, so I feel for it. That's great. All right, so very quickly, my name's Rich. I live in Melbourne, Australia. Have been over to New Delhi a few times. I love India. This is my family, my wife and my 3 daughters and my pet dog, Bella. And this, what I'm going to present to you today is quite a compact 10 years, you could say, and to show you exactly what's working around the world today, especially in this new world. Enterprise founder, thank you very much. Okay, so everything that comes from Engage and Grow initially, ladies and gentlemen, was really originated from me first figuring out how to win sports championships. So when I played cricket many, many years ago, from the ages of 6 years old all the way to 26, and football and Australian rules football and soccer, I started to see a system unfold to teams that I was associated with that were winning a lot of championships as opposed to teams that weren't. And so then I started to replicate this when I got into my 20s and 30s. I'm now 44 years old. And then I started to build a business out of it. Now it organically grew into the business world. So over the course of the years, I've authored, just about to author my another book, but The Minds of Winning Teams, Engage and Grow, with Brad Sugars, Marshall Goldsmith and Mark Thompson, and another one called Injury Free, which is mental training for elite athletes. So I work with elite sports teams and elite athletes, executives, business owners, HR managers all across the world. I've also got a new book coming out in 2 months called Stress Free, How to Thrive Under Pressure in Unprecedented Times, to help business owners and help people get back on their feet quickly after the coronavirus has slowly departed. So that'll be available at all major bookstores. So this really is for C-suite, HR managers, L&Ds, business owners, entrepreneurs, for everybody. There's an opportunity here because we are changing the world in a very unique, powerful manner. Okay, so as I was mentioned, we are now situated in 40 plus countries, and that's happened more or less over the last 5 years. And because we have a very unique model to go about it. So in the next 25 minutes, please stay completely focused. Have your notepad and pen handy and make as many notes as you can, because I'm about to give you a lot of information. And I'm going to go very quickly because I've only got a short amount of time. However, we'll have Q&A at the end. So what's really exciting is time has changed forever. So this current pandemic, the economic collapse, you could say, or pause button has been hit. And so we're going to see the world very differently from here. And in my eyes, I'm extremely excited about the aftermath. Certainly devastating times right now, but what's about to come for businesses is quite unique and powerful, because a lot of the companies, a lot of the methodologies, the systems, the operating systems that weren't built on a strong, firm foundation are now going to collapse. And so new inventions, new creations, a new opportunity for creativity for us leaders to help the world fast track. And why that's exciting is because the world we were in wasn't really exciting for me, because I've got young daughters who I want to see grow up in a more advanced civilization. And business is the founder and lead way for business around the world, for civilization to advance. And so the new world of work, really, things are going to go so much faster now. And we're going to maintain, to some degree, very much an online new reality. And so people working from home will be the new norm to some degree. Employee connection now is going to be more of a criteria today and tomorrow than ever before. And I'm going to show you some reasons why. Over the last 7 weeks or 8 weeks since the pandemic has been here, we've seen two different unique stages. Obviously, the critical, the lock-in, the isolation started to happen in most countries around the world. And so people went home then and they set up their new environment. Okay, that's the first stage. The second stage was they had to get used to new time management structures. And so they spent a week, maybe two, getting themselves occupied with new time management. The third stage, which is pretty much here about now, is about helping people manage their mental health. And that's why engagement is such a critical element to mental health, because people at its core love connection the most out of anything available to help human consciousness happy. So human connection is the most important thing for happiness around the world. And that's a Harvard study. And so the more that you can connect with your people, and I'll show you how, in a certain way, you're going to find dramatic results. Because the fourth stage, which is nearly here now, which is the next stage after we manage people's mental health, because in a few weeks' time, when people start running out of money and their relatives start getting more concerned, a lot more pressure comes on, it's about team health. So the next 4 to 6 weeks is very much about team health. And that's why it's exciting for us at Engage and Grow, because we're very much ready for this issue. So today, engagement and culture really is the number one necessity today because of this current landscape. But gone are the days where you could just come in and do company training and that would change the level of happiness in the organization. Deloitte and these companies now have figured out that that really doesn't improve at all your productivity and your happiness and engagement levels in the workplace. It's good for knowledge, but not great for productivity and happiness. And so along the way, we don't go around with our programs and do a lot of teaching as such. We're very much an activation company because we know the answers are already in the room. It's like a sports team. The answers are already in the players playing cricket. We know we've just got to make them more passionate about their craft, come to work and do more work, do more passionate work, get involved, communicate, connect, and work towards guidelines that are very structured and adhered to by the team. And so similar to a sports team, we know the answers are in the sports team, but the sports team also needs to mature. And so along the way, what we've done really well with Action Coach is Action Coach, without doubt, are the world leaders when it comes to business education, or as Brad says, re-education. And so and by far the best in the world at that. And so the last 4 years, we've partnered with them and we really complement the business coaching model that Action Coach implement, which is called the really much employee focus. And so, as I said, we are really activators of people. Our specialty is people, okay? Not so much business. We just get the very best out of people. So we work in every industry around the world, working in every culture around the world. And it doesn't matter what industry, what size company, small, medium or large, we make a change very, very quickly because we're all about neurology and about group dynamic. And so the key criteria we really focus in on, and if I go further into our model, is to understand that there's really two key critical areas of every organization. And these areas are the brain of the business and then the heart of the business. And so along the way, the heart of the business is more or less the soft skills, the behaviors, the relationships, the communication, and so forth. Where we say the brain of the business is more your operating, your systems, your governance, your products, and so forth. And so what we're really focused on primarily as a number one priority is to get our people really focused heavily on the heart of the business. And so again, like a sports team, the more connected they are, the more they understand each other, the more they really have built their own structures and these sorts of things, the more success they'll have when the pressure is applied. Now, when the pressure is applied, it's about how glued together people are. And particularly now, because people are working in isolation a lot of the times. So everything we do is all online. However, you can do it face-to-face as well, which we've been doing as well. So over the last 8 years, hundreds of programs online and also live at the same time. And here's an example of a company we just finished a program with just a few days ago in Indonesia. And so we asked this team if we had to improve one thing for us to be number one in our industry, what would that be? And then we asked them to put them on post-it notes and got them to then focus in on one thing that they needed to improve on, or one or two things they need to improve on to be the very best in their competition. And this is what they came up with. 2 people said we need more knowledge. 2 people said client feedback, goal setting, innovation, and so forth. But ironically, 9 people said better communication, recognition, customer relationships, team motivation, feedback, and so forth. Because as you can see, a lot of the times we do find that 80 to 90% of the time, the people when asked this question, they always work and focus on the heart of the business. This is really important because I'm going to show you some statistics soon that show the success of Deloitte and so forth along the way. Am I here coming across correctly? Can you hear me okay? We good? Okay. And so what we're saying here is that companies that focus on the heart and soul of their organization from a people first, profit second perspective are 8 times more successful over a 10-year period. Now that is significant. Leadership teams that focus on building the heart and soul of the business, people first, profit second, are 8 times more successful over a 10-year period. Now, they've got stats on this over the years, and ironically, one of the key companies around the world is a mortgage broking company who win this every year. And they're such a successful company because all they care about, most importantly, is the empathy, the soft skills of their organization. Having said that, once you've got them in play, then your systems, processes, and operatings all need to come into it as well. So there needs to be a balance. But a lot of the times, the brain of the business is more powerful or more focused on than the heart of the business. So all we're doing is bring it into balance. And so there's along the way, once we know this information, once we know that we focus on the heart of the business, because we're all complicated species, this human body, is we then need to focus on how do we make the change. And this is really important because it's taken me many, many years to understand how to get shift very, very quickly. Now, modern day science, there's only 2 real ways to create a huge amount of shift quickly. And that's through hypnosis, which you can't be hypnotized all the time. And the other way is through repetition and reprogramming. Repetition and reprogramming. Think about it. When you learned the alphabet, you learned it over and over and over again. When you learned to drive, you learned it over and over again until it became mainstream. Now we know this. But how do we bring that into our organizations all the time so it happens and it becomes the norm? That's one key aspect. So if you're not doing repetition and reprogramming when it comes to culture, when it comes to creating more leaders and these soft skill type environments, you'll find that they'll be like a one-hit wonder. And all of a sudden, the companies that do this all the time are far more advanced in a couple of years' time. And so the other part of it is understanding the science of motivation. And first and foremost, we need to understand how we are individually motivated. And that means through pain, pleasure, reward, punishment, self-direction, self-improvement, transcendent purpose, which is for the greater good. Also through our core human needs. And lastly, understand how we learn the quickest. And how we learn the quickest is through discussion, and through experiencing it firsthand, as in experiencing wins and experiencing challenges, and secondly, teaching others. So once we know all of that, and plus through repetition and reprogramming, you've got the antidote to making a huge cultural shift in a short amount of time. But then, how do you do it? And that's what I want to share with you. And so we know that we all have these areas of change, but we don't have time to figure out who is motivated by pain, who's motivated by certainty. We don't have the time. So we devised a program, a system which is customized for every different company around the world based on their needs, that's going to impact every person along the way to make sure they shift. And that's the way Engage and Grow does. We engage them neurologically so they grow individually, and then the organization can't help but be more successful. So it's very important to understand. Now you understand the science of motivation and how to make people change. Next understanding is the 3 types of people that are in your organization today. Now, this is quite interesting. The first type of person comes to work and they do less than is expected. Now, have a think about your workplace right now. How many people do you think just come to work and get in and get out? The second type of person is someone who comes to work and they're disengaged. So they just come to work and just do what is expected. In other words, they're on the boat and they're just literally looking out to the scenery, enjoying the journey. The third type of person comes to work and they come to work and do more than is expected. So these people are emotionally engaged in the workplace. That means they really have been triggered emotionally to do more. So our role is to help business leaders, entrepreneurs, and HR managers get their people into the green extremely quickly. And I could possibly say that today, with #1 licensing employee engagement company in the world today, through our size, but most importantly, we're known through, you could say, our coaches, because around the world a long time is where the quickest way to create a cultural shift. And so we're looking at the statistics around the world today based on the recent stats on how many people come to work and do more than is expected, just what's expected, and less than is expected. And if we see here that America, US, and Canada have 31% coming to work and doing engaged, but then we go down to South Asia, which is more in the areas of India, and you can see that 14% come to work and they do more than is expected. Now, if that isn't raising alarm bells as a business owner, it should be. And I'm going to show you the cost, what that's really costing you right now. Oop, let me just go back one. Okay, so, excuse me, guys. There we go. So we go down here and we see not 21% are coming to work and they're doing less than is expected. So that means here we've got 2 people rowing towards success. You've got 5 or 6 people literally watching the scenery, and you've got 2 people, 21% in every 10, 2 out of every 10, generally speaking, in your parts of the business industry, actually trying to sink your boat. Now, these aren't our statistics. And so how do we move the people out of the red into the green, out of the red to the yellow to the green? That's the question. And that's what we're talking about here with Engage and Grow. Now, to do that, you need to understand the cost of this before I go into it. They're saying also that 34% of everyone's salary who is actively disengaged, this red one here, and disengaged here, the green, there's 34% of their salary is being wasted before they even show up to work. But let's get conservative. Let's just say it's just the guys in the red. So let's just pretend 2 out of 10. Let's have a look at the costs. Now, because we do this around the world, we keep this very simple. So you can put it in your terms. Have a think about the head count in your company right now. For instance, say you've got 200 people and you say 21% of highly or actively disengaged. That means roughly, well, that should be more than that, 40. So you've got 40 people coming to work. Average salary, we just pulled a number out there of 10,000. 34% cost of disengagement. That's 3,400. By that. Now, this has just quickly been put together by my team. I hope that's correct. But then you go to 50 head count and you can see the significant cost of people that are actively disengaged, let alone disengaged. And so how do we stop this? That's the most important thing. But before you do, you need to understand also that these people here, the ones that are disengaged, they're the ones that come to work and they'll walk up to you during the day. You won't even know it's happened. And they'll say, boss, I've got something to tell you. I'm leaving the organization. And because you didn't really know they were disengaged, because they came to work and they did what they needed to do. And this is the key area, because these are the people that can be easily saved, easily moved into the green. And so every time you need to rehire these people, it's 50% for an entry-level employee, 50% of their salary needs to be spent to get the same level back. So every time someone leaves, you're spending 50% of their salary just to get them back. If you look at the hiring costs, the cost of losing clients, the cost of the culture falling apart, sales, and obviously slow production. Technical leader, an A-grade leader, leaving your organization, the cost is obviously a lot higher, 250% their salary. Now, again, these are stats based on recent studies. And so most importantly, the key area here is these people can be saved. And we're seeing this all around the world today because people are we are a very unique species. You just happen to have one bad conversation with someone and that can prolong for many, many months, weeks and days. So the key is when you have high levels of engagement, you've got 10% higher customer metrics, 70% higher productivity, and 20% higher sales, and 23% higher profitability. And luckily, the reason why we've grown so quickly is because these aren't workshops as such. All it is activating people by accessing their neurology and getting them driven by the heart. Okay, moving forward. Once we understand how we've motivated our people, then understand how to assess them. We've evaluated them, right? So that's what we've more or less done. So how do we evaluate them? Then we go and we've got to get in buy-in. So once we evaluate them, I'll show you how to do that in just a second. You get buy-in. So then you've got to create collective accountability. Then you go up the stage of unite, creating very meaningful connections. The next stage is to align them from negative to positive. So you're getting rid of all the fears, all the anxiety, and all the negativity out of your organization, which allows you to really engage, go from positive to high performance, and then getting into a stage where you've got continual improvement. And so the first stage, really quite simply, is these are the engagement keys that we use. And so depending on where your company is at, there's multiple engagement keys. I'm going to give you a splashing of about 12 that you may have used before, and that's fine, but it's not about the engagement key as such. It's how it's systemized and what maturity level your organization or teams are at. And so to create collective buy-in and accountability, quite simply is, and because I'm squeezing in 10 years of IP here, I can only give you so much, but we have a webinar tomorrow with our CEO, Ishik, that can help you explain this in more detail. The creating collective accountability is getting everyone focused purely and simply to begin with on heart-based activities within the organization and done online, obviously. Now there's ways and means that you can measure this, and we want to show you that, because if you don't measure it, okay, people then create their own bad habits. Everything needs to be measured. Then also it's about understanding the difference between behaviors and values. So everything we do is getting the team more so focused on their behaviors and choosing their behaviors instead of focusing so much on company values. And the significance here is because when a team focuses on behaviors and not values so much, they're highly accountable to their daily tangible results. And if they're offline with their behaviors, it's up to the team then to bring it up, not so much the leader. Now, this takes a lot of pressure off the business leader. And again, we can go into more detail about this as well. It's important that every week, now that we're on an online, in an online world, especially for behaviors, is to understand how the power of reward and recognition. At the end of every week or at the every day, whatever it may be, when you've had great discussions and insights and sharing and growth and challenges, that everyone gets recognized for a reason why as well. Not just well done today. Try and get to the heart of the reason. So people start looking for the good stuff in the organization, especially in this online world. Getting your team now to present every week, sharing best practice around the world. I'm sharing best practice right now. So getting them to be out there throughout the times when they're at home, in their own office, getting creative and finding out what the best are doing. Again, it's getting them engaged neurologically. These are all neurological design. Sharing stories. Now, there's only so much, there's stories that are very powerful, but how much do you give within a story? So there's certain stories that we think are really powerful, and there's certain stories about a time in your life that you broke through adversity and got the gift in it, okay, which turns people out of victim thinking into proactive leader thinking. Okay, one person they really admire and why. Because if you give people the ability to share stories about everything and anything, you can get caught up in a whole lot of emotional drama. So you've got to keep it, you could say, a guideline to some degree. Individual growth. So at a certain stage, you want to start giving regular feedback because of the new world that we're living in, is because people are going to, if you don't have strong boundaries, which is the behavioral benchmarking up here, they're going to create bad habits. And so it's easier to hide behind a screen than it is when you're in the workplace. So having a very structured approach to giving feedback, and to the point where everyone is giving each other feedback, which takes pressure off the business leader to be the person that's keeping the team in line. So this takes a bit of work, because you've got to get them up the maturity levels before they can get them to that stage. But once you get into that stage, you are moving into continuous improvement. Then an understanding of the really powerful coaching methodologies for quick online coaching individual. So you can then go into breakout rooms online and give quick 20-minute, 15-minute progressive and advanced feedback with our dedicated coaching forms. And so then everyone gives each other feedback with these forms. So again, it takes pressure off the business owner, and everyone holds themselves accountable to the point where the following week, each person will come back and talk about the areas that they're going to work on, improve for their own development. How do you create an emerging leader pipeline? We want to show you that as well. Always having people chair the meetings, but then on a basic agenda based on heart as well, not just operations and systems. How far and wide are you then expanding the relationships across the entire organization or throughout your client base? Is there a structured approach for every one of your team now to reach out to other people in different organizations through chat, through online Zoom meetings, through structured approach, instead of just hiding behind a computer? Again, what sort of questions are they asking? Do you do a quiz? Do you do competitions? Whatever it is to engage other companies in different silos or your clientele. All this needs to be very tightly structured, so it looks like you're going in with a real authentic approach, with empathy and a keen desire to maintain and build relationships. Brand awareness and social responsibility. What are you doing as a team, as an organization in the community now? Again, this needs a structured approach, because people, as I said, are very much focused on transcendent purpose as one of the key motivators. So getting people to buy into the future community support that we're providing, whether it be in your country, in multiple countries around the world now, because we're seeing a borderless community now, a borderless globe, and we are all becoming one. And lastly, how do you unearth creative thinking and innovation? This is going to be unbelievably powerful now, because the new world we're in is going to be screaming out for new creativity. And everyone has it within them, but how often are you asking your team to go into a meditative state sometimes, or not, and just sit there and allow your intuition through, allow your creative juices to flow in an environment where it's healthy and fun and dynamic, not just going through the solid agenda items, as I said, as most companies are doing. So these are activation tools, as I said, that need to be based on science and motivation, and repeated and repeated and repeated until they become a habit. Once it becomes a habit, you're going to find yourself walking up the 6 stages of engagement, as you can see here. So to evaluate, the most important thing is we've got a survey that you can use, and you can reach out to Ishik or myself or to Venus, whoever it is that you've aligned with this summit. It's a 60-second survey, and I can't give you all the questions here because we'll go too long. But basic survey questions like, my teammates have my back. That one person will give you an analysis on strongly agree to strongly disagree. Now they're talking about their team here. So you can do this for small teams, large teams, it just depends. But we'll need to give you some advice and counsel on this along the way. And also then questions like, in my work, I'm always challenged to grow. In this situation here, this company here, based on these three areas, highly disengaged, disengaged, and engaged, we grew from 17% to 67% in about 8 meetings. Okay, purely because we got them hard focused and we worked on their motivation without them really even understanding what we were doing. And this is what I love about it the most, is because you're going to unearth new leaders without them even realizing it. Because leadership really is about being proactive and caring about others. You know, in essence, when you're not a top leader, like a C-suite leader needs vision and all these sorts of things, but everyday people just need to be proactive and empathetic. That creates a strong leader. Another, looking at other results. So if we said you counted, you had 8 employees here beforehand, and we went through and did the similar things that I've shown you, again, all customized, and this company doubled their profits from 4 million to 8 million in 12 weeks, purely because one employee who was finally engaged by the leadership team to the level where he felt that he was cared for, understood after being in the company for 2 years, then he did an introduction to someone who had a contract to a new business, and within overnight, that company just doubled in size. Here's 15 employees. Again, all did the same survey, so we knew we were working with a very difficult group, and sure enough, after 12 sessions, we had them into a highly engaged position. Still work to be done. But most importantly, had a 34% growth in Q4 of 2000 last year. So they did a half online and half live program. Okay, and look, in terms of what else we supply, this online business really is about sales programs, millennial programs, leader of leader programs, so one-on-one leadership programs, company-wide programs up to 80 people at once, women programs, the whole lot, sports teams programs. We've also come and created a brand new one called the Achievers Club, which Ishik will go into more detail tomorrow. But this is a 3-level program, which between 6 to 8 people, but we have to customize everything. So once we have companies that are interested in going down this track, then we ask them certain questions, we build the algorithm for them, and we have a coach then follow the process. So Achievers Club will go for 8 sessions, Creators Club, 8 sessions, and Executive Club, so forth. So we advance the maturity of the team very, very quickly. And so also looking for entrepreneurs that want to start a business on the side or full-time around different parts of your area. So what's really exciting about this is the spark. Once you put a spark into an organization that's heart-driven, it starts like this. You get 4 or 5 people or 8 people really excited about what's going on, and it starts to grow. Energetically, the heart is 30,000 more times powerful than the brain, and the heart energy starts to flow through the organization. Very soon, you're going to see a huge amount of happier people online throughout the whole world, communicating, connecting, and based on really wanting to be there, based on heart-focused leadership. And that, my friends, is where the world is going today. So at its core, when people come to an organization, they're like a sheep. They really don't know where to fit in. If your organization has more me-focused people, just everyone looking after themselves, it's all about me, I just got to get what I want, you're going to find that you won't get the success that you're after. So our job is to get people into the we category. And the way to get people into the we category is through heart-based leadership. Now, this quite simply is the sports championship model. And so in closing, we're average engagement growth for SME is 250 plus in terms of our growth when it comes to our survey growth, and our corporate executive world, 300 plus now as well. So this is a really fantastic time right now because people are seeing a lot more heart in the community. They're connecting more on a heart level. Now it's time for our leaders to step this up and really take advantage of this new energy that's happening around the world. And the world quite simply is moving from brain focus to heart focused leadership. And I love what's happening around the world for that matter. So in closing, there's 3 options. You can join us as a licensed coach. You can also request an assistance for us to work in your organization, upskilling a HR manager, or you can bring a coach in, or you can also come on as a master licensee as well. I'm not here to sell to you. I'm just giving you options because I always get asked at the end, what are the options for it if I'm interested in taking this further. And so you'll see Ishik tomorrow, the beautiful Ishik Sarasoi. She's on at 12:30 tomorrow, taking this into a business opportunity, and I'm open to any Q&A on that matter. And it's right on time. I think I've squeezed enough in. I've gone very fast. I hope I haven't lost anyone. If I have, please write down your questions so I can be of assistance to you.
Hi, Richard. This is Tabisha.
Hello, Tabisha. How are you?
I'm so fantastic to listen to you. Every time I've heard you, Richard, there is a new learning that comes out of the whole Engage and Grow program for me. So thank you so much. A couple of questions. So I'm just going to try and bucket questions for you that's coming in from the audience, as I can see them as a panelist, and you can, respond to them as you go. So, the whole employee engagement is so deep, and you've just put it so beautifully. It's by far the most hardest for the entrepreneur community or the business owner community to handle, because people are the most complex. So it's easy to handle technology, it's easy to handle strategy, and that's where Peter Drucker comes in, and he says, his famous saying where he says, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. And getting culture right is a phenomenal strategy in itself to implement in an organization. And a lot of people struggle at it because it's so deep rooted with the heart, like you say, the heart of the organization. It's the softer side of people to get them motivated towards a mission that you are setting up. Yeah, it's not that straightforward. And there's always this confusion between how do I really ensure that people know the operational side accurately. So they have all their KRAs, KPIs, and clarity in terms of tasks being done. But at the same time, I've also got to ensure that they're being fully engaged. And there's a bit of confusion around what comes first and what should come second, or should this be done together, the brain side and the heart side, because to get this entire working effectively, you need both sides. What's
Yes.
your view on that?
Well, I mean, the quote, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care," is a very strong quote. Now, if someone came to the organisation and they were just told to go and do their job, then they will do that. But if they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel like they're part of something greater, they don't feel like they're being challenged maybe, or they just feel like that is engagement. And so they need to go hand in hand, definitely. The world we're living in today, and especially tomorrow with the next generation, is that they are picking and choosing very quickly. I mean, 7 months in a job is like a lifetime to them. Where in my day, 4 years was the good service. And so if you've only got team there for 7 months to 12 months, you've got to engage them on every level so they maintain their employee, their role in the organisation. And that comes through making a family, making them feel like they're part of something that they don't want to leave. Because what happens is when people get asked the question of, would you leave an organisation for an extra $10,000 or $5,000? If they have only one best friend in that organisation, they're more likely to leave. But if they've got 3 to 4 really good quality friends in that organisation, they won't leave. And so we need to create more best friends in the organisation. And so when pressure goes on or the company is hurting, then everyone pulls together. But most importantly, people don't leave quickly and easily. So how do you connect people? Through structured, heart-focused, motivational skills, through habitual training.
Yeah, completely makes sense. I get that, Richard. Thank you so much. Another question that's come up says, usually employees escape from accountability. And how do you actually get the balance in place between the heart and the soul, or the brain and the body, when there is this clear issue of accountability? Again, business owners seem to be again torn apart, wanting to become more task focused. So what's your take on that?
What are you measuring? And what are they measuring? If they're not measuring accountability, then they're not going to be, there's no benchmark. So with everything we do, we measure. You need a scorecard for everything. And so if you have your team working on heart-focused areas of the business, you need to hold people accountable to what they're agreeing to do. But having said that, it's good for them to come up with it too. So you want to engage with their independence. So, but how are you measuring? We give you measuring tools. And so when people come in, they're all on the same page. So one person isn't delivering, the rest of the team will see that. It's become very easy and obvious. If you're not measuring that accountability, then these people are creating bad habits. And it's putting more pressure on the business owner, where the business owner has to structure things up and give people a hard time. But if you've got a great measurement tool, a scorecard, that doesn't put pressure on the business owner as such, because this person or those people are being found out for not delivering on agreed promises. That's with heart and brain. So this is about creating new habits. This is about getting people to buy into what they want to do, not what they're told to do a lot of the times. Again, it's based on science. You've got to let people come up with their own areas. You've got to set them targets and so forth as well. But when it comes to their daily activities, they come up with it to a degree, as long as you understand and buy into it. But then they've got to be highly accountable to those tasks. And all you're doing is getting people to get rid of bad habits.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, Richard. And I've run the Engage and Grow program for one of my clients, and we've got phenomenal results from them. Exactly that you've been talking about. We've been able to take away the pain that they had when they were only focused on the task part, and they were only focused on pushing people around and getting work done like a ringmaster. And the day we introduced this, we started to see the change all come in and the motivation level rise. I'll just point another a last question actually, because we just have about a minute left, unfortunately. So I have a question here which says, have you ever done work with organizations that had almost 100% disengaged people? What's been your experience with that?
I showed you one just a minute ago. A company that was a retail, that was a restaurant that was on the way of collapsing in the UK. We've worked with many teams 100% disengaged. So we need to go in with a very mature approach. And that's why we survey everyone before we go to their company to find out how mature that team is and how disengaged they are, so that we build the system based on the feedback. Because I can't put a fast track process in there if everyone doesn't want to be there. So then we really build around the survey that we get. But yeah, we've run hundreds and hundreds and thousands of programs now all around the world, and many of them are disengaged. And we will fix that company very soon, or we will find out who's trying to sink the business for you in a very sensitive way. And so then that person or people will then feel like they need to make a decision to get back on the boat and row forward with the company or depart the company. And so that organically looks after itself after you put the system through, which takes a lot of pressure off the leaders.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Richard. That was fantastic. This was a really, really insightful session, very loaded. I think a lot of people would like to spend more time on this particular topic, but unfortunately, we're short on that one today. Thank you so much, and we'd really like to hear from you again on another forum for sure. And we'll speak to Ishik tomorrow.
Thanks, team. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Tavish.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Richard, before you go, just a token of appreciation from our end. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for sharing your knowledge with our attendees today. Thank you so much, Richard.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.